It's Friday night. Lock your doors up tight. Come down into the deadly lair. Frightening things are everywhere. Face your fears and gather near. The Dr. Fearless Show is here.
Good evening, boils and ghouls. Whatever you are, welcome to the friendly confines of the Doctor's laboratory. I'm so grateful you've braved the perils of the witching hour to join us for tonight's special presentation. Where's the film? There's no film in here. What is this? There's a magazine in here. Oh, sorry. Okay. Mr. Mortimer has informed me that tonight's peculiar presentation will not in fact be a story told to celluloid, but rather it is the terrifying tale of a woman who discovers what we, the faithful, have always known. That monsters are real. They walk among us, and they manipulate the media with diabolical and menacing means. She may just save the world if she can stay sober long enough. She's Beloit, Missouri, KSKB TV's very own Jerry Bartman. Count Crowley, reluctant midnight monster hunter. All right, guys, it's good. Have a good weekend. We got some plans. We're gonna jet ski at the Ozarks. Yeah, Brian's got a jet ski. Okay, yeah, I'll see you guys. Thanks.
Hey man, we're back with another interview for QuarantinedCon.com. This is a free comic book convention. So if you haven't gotten your tickets, well, make sure you go to QuarantinedCon.com, hit the tickets button, and then once you register, you hit a button, and then boom, you're into the virtual con. Our next guest, I've been excited for like months. We've had a horrifying lineup so far, and it would not be complete without sitting down with the new terrifying king of creep. You know him from such films as Ant-Man and the Wasp and The Dark Knight, but he's here to talk about a killer new comic from Dark Horse called Count Crowley, Reluctant Monster Hunter. Please help me welcome David Dastmalchain.
Hey! Good evening. Hey guys, hey man, it's so good to finally I've talked to you over the phone, I've talked to you through email, but it's great to actually get to hang out with you. It sucks that we're doing it virtually because I want to come to Texas and do it in person, but this is awesome. And hi everybody who's watching. It's so awesome to be able to spend some time with you guys today. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thank you very much for sitting down with us and all that jazz. I know this isn't like your traditional style Comic Con, but do you attend cons when you're not promoting something? Do you like to?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Cons were something I really loved and looked forward to, and were important to me. Small scale things that went and happened in Kansas City, which is where I grew up, through Chicago, my time in Chicago, and then when I moved, to New York for a year, and then I moved to California, the cons got much bigger, and there was, Stanley's Kamikaze was a cool one in LA that I was going to, and obviously Monster Palooza is a really big deal for me. But what happened, I have this really weird relationship with cons where I started to make a path for myself as an actor and working in projects, especially projects, and I've been so lucky. I've done a lot of work that happens to fall in the sphere of the things that I love, which is comic book culture and science fiction, and some horror as well. And horror is, one of my great passions. So conventions started to, at first it started to get tricky because going to them then, I didn't feel like I was getting to maybe have as much of a a normal or like relaxed experience, because a lot of times you get into a situation where if you start talking to somebody or somebody's taking pictures, then all of a sudden it kind of becomes about that. And I found a way to just kind of sneak around and go to conventions and just do my thing, and people have been cool, and I don't have to put on like a goofy costume or anything. I just found like I could like navigate my way, but then there was also the tricky thing was like, I was starting to be invited as like a guest to attend cons where I had an opportunity to like meet fans and do pictures and stuff like that. And I was like, this is going to be really cool. And it was actually tricky for me because you're interacting with somebody, trying to have like a real meaningful conversation in like 15 seconds or 30 seconds. And it's very, because it's the nature of it, and I've been in the aisle. I hadn't been on the other side of the table. I've been in the aisle for so long. So the transactional nature of it was something I understood was the way that they exist. Like I had gone to cons to find cool toys that I wanted to buy, I couldn't get elsewhere, to get comics I couldn't get, to get autographs that I couldn't get anywhere else, to meet people I couldn't get anywhere else. But for some reason, when I was all of a sudden on the other side of it, I would get really exhausted very quickly and feel like I would end up at the end of the day just not having the most positive feelings. I feel guilty, like maybe I hadn't given all, or I hadn't been able to like, talk as long as that person seemed to want to be able to talk. And so I started to get kind of bummed, to be quite honest, about cons. And I was going to promote movies or things at them, and then my wife and I would just sneak off and go sneak around and do the convention. But Count Crowley happened.
Yeah.
And I came up with this idea where I was like, what if I can go to conventions and instead of like selling headshots or like having to do these like really quick interactions with people, what if I just set up a thing where like we have like a Count Crowley area and I can hang out in a more like less like red ropey way and just get to talk about the comic book. And so we did it last year at Rose City. We did something like that at New York. We did something like it at San Diego, although that's such a huge, massive one. And then we're going to do a whole string of other smaller regional conventions that way, where it's like, okay, I'm not doing like, instead of like a minimum guarantee and like you have to make sure you get through all these things. Instead, it was going to be more about like, why don't I come and I could sign comics and I could talk to people about that. We could take a selfie. We can kick it. Like, so that's now it feels really good. And I was all excited to be going into this like year to do this with my whole get up. And then it's like, coronavirus, you're not going to be in a space with a lot of people like that for a while. So here we are. I'm grateful for you guys for doing this. It's a great chance to at least be able to like connect with people,
For sure, man. And we appreciate you sitting down with us. And we are here to talk about Count Crowley, of course. But this book doesn't get made without two things, one being monsters and one being horror TV hosts.
Yes.
Let's start with number one. Where did your love for monsters come from?
So we're here in my office, and I'm going to try not to move my computer around too much so I don't like screw that up. But like, I'll try. I don't think I'm going to totally screw this up. I'm going to give you guys a little view of like a little bit of what I'm looking at here. And there, I'll pick her up. When I grew up in Kansas City, we had a late night, Friday night creature feature host named Crematia Mortem. She had a show, Crematia's Friday Nightmare. And I was like a devoted follower of Crematia, and she introduced me to the old school stuff when I was a kid. I lived in a pretty conservative religious household, and so comic books and sci-fi, D&D, horror movies, rock and roll, all those things were like, and so of course, the rebel, I'm like sneaking downstairs, in fourth grade after everyone's gone to bed to like watch Crematia's Friday Nightmare, and like, I felt she introduced me to all the stuff that I love. I mean, the first monster that I really adored was the werewolf, and I was also scared shitless of werewolves as a kid, but I just loved watching Oliver Reed and Curse the Werewolf, and she was like a lot of horror hosts where there was great jokes and bits in between the movies, so they weren't so scary to me as a kid. I also got to like love the vibe of like haunted house, crypt, prop comedy. She loved the movie. She talked about, she has reverence for the movies the way all horror hosts do, but she also had like a really good sense of humor. And then I moved to Chicago to study acting. Oh, by the way, here's some of my horror toy collection. I don't know if you get
that's awesome.
That.
Very cool.
I became friends with this awesome guy. Well, I became a fan of his long before I became friends with him, but Sven Gulli. Yeah, there's his annual Christmas card. He sends me a Christmas card every year, and so that's where, I mean, it started at that young age, and I was, my parents went through for me, it was really traumatizing. I'm sure it is for every kid. Divorce when I was in like 5th, 6th, 7th grade. It was a tricky time for me, and that's when I found the magic of like going to the Metcalf South Mall. Clint's Comics was my comic shop growing up, and Clint's Comics had 2 locations at the time, and one was in the mall right next to the Nickelodeon arcade. And at first I would go to the mall with all the quarters and lawn mowing money and whatever I'd saved to go to the arcade, and then I found myself like saving all that to go to Clint's to get comics.
Is Clint still around?
So crazy story. Clint South, which was the one at the Metcalf South Mall, that one closed. But the original Clint's downtown in Kansas City still exists. And so as the years went on and I became, an actor working in movies like Ant-Man, The Dark Knight, TV shows like The Flash, Gotham, etc., the owner of Clint's, a guy named Jim Kavanaugh, was always so proud of me. I was one of the Clint's kids, what we called us, and he was always like when I'd go to Kansas City, he would always give us stuff, even though I'm like, Jim, I can finally like afford to buy stuff. You don't have to get, he'd be, no, you got to take this for Arlo. And he gave us this, which I recently had to move out of my son's room because he was getting freaked out by it. Anyway, Jim, such a sad story, but it's really beautiful. So about 3-4 years ago now, it's been 4 years ago, I think. Yeah, 3 years ago, I went to Kansas City for the Kansas City Planet Comic Con to help celebrate the 50th anniversary of Clint's Comics, and we did like a panel, and then we had a big, awesome barbecue dinner, and Jim had all of his Clint's kids in from all over, and people who still help him, and his wife running the shop, and I mean, a week or 2 later, Jim was tragically killed. Jim was a real hothead, and he was also like, a bit of a cowboy, and somebody robbed the shop, and Jim was trying to chase him out of the shop, and sadly, he passed away, and it was devastating. It was heartbreaking. And when Count Crowley came around, it was such a fucking weird, bittersweet moment when I realized, like, oh my God, I'm going to get my own comic book. Like, my name is going to be on comic. I can't wait to go to Clint's. And then it like hit me. I was like, I'm never going to get to share that with Jim. I think I got a picture here of me and Jim. Anyway, I reached out to, Sharon, Jim's wife, who's, how hard it is to run a comic shop. And she's doing this like with just the help of the people, in the community right now. And he didn't keep things that neat or organized. And but she said she would have me, she wanted to do something at the shop. So the week that issue 1 premiered, I went back home to Kansas City. It was the most beautiful thing, man. There was a line around the block. It was all the old friends, all the family. The big picture of Jim hung right above where I sat to do my signing. And they're open to this day. So if you're anybody watching in Kansas City, make sure you keep your pull list going, and you keep, figuring out how to Venmo or do pickups and save pickups from Sharon and any other comic shop, wherever you are. Like, just because this thing is happening to us all right now, you got to still, comics are such a great way for us to escape from the frustration of what we're all going through right now, but they're also such an important way to support great storytelling, the arts, the artists that make them, and the shops that distribute them. So if you can and you're able to, I understand a lot of people are out of work right now, but if you could do it, please continue to fill your pull list. If you don't have a pull list or you don't know what that is, it's still easy to find your nearest comic shop. Reach out and figure out how they can either get your comics sent over to you, dropped off, or you can pick them up safely in a bag at the door, which is happening with a lot of shops.
Yeah, a lot of them are going curbside. That's what the Adventure Begins is doing. Got an online store, curbside, and all that jazz, and wear gloves and masks and all that stuff too.
Awesome.
Let's see. Count Crowley. Now, I say it Crowley because of Ozzy Osbourne. A lot of I've seen online is Crowley. So, being the creator, can you? What's the official pronunciation?
Count Crowley. Crowley. Count Crowley, reluctant midnight monster hunter. Yes. So that's. But hey, you call it Count Crowley, Count Crowley, Count Croxley, as long as you pick up this rag and put it on your shelf and tell your pals about it and order it out of the backs of comic ads. Hey man, I'm happy. I'll be happy.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, we got them in the store when they first came out, and I picked it up, and it's such a unique take on horror, especially with the TV host vibe, and just tell the folks out there exactly what to expect from this book. I love this book. I think it's genius.
Yes, I will. And really quick, just want to make sure, are you guys hearing me okay? Is my connection okay with you?
Yes.
You got me? Okay, cool. So just throw me a hand signal if you don't, because sometimes my internet gets wonky on Skype. So so Count Crowley, Reluctant Midnight Monster Hunter, is like I said, I was raised on the horror host and the concept of the creature feature, and I was introduced to the Universal, the Hammer, the William Castle, all the RKO stuff from a young age, and then eventually that evolved into my love and passion for gore and splatter and slasher films, and then of course supernatural horror, which took such an awesome renaissance in the 90s. But needless to say, I've always loved horror, and I was talking to you about this before we started, Mr. VG, about how crazy and intense this experience that we're all going through is. But something about horror was this way to, for me, I think, confront my fear of death and mortality and being scared, and being able to do it in a safe place, and go on that roller coaster 1.5 or 2 hour ride for great horror films. And I always had this idea that I wanted to make a movie with this horror host or a network of horror hosts who battled monsters. And then over time, I started thinking how cool it would be if monsters had made a bunch of fake information, fake news, if you will. Like, they basically created the mythologies about them so that we thought that you killed werewolves with silver bullets and vampires with wooden stakes. But what if all that was BS? What if the real way to destroy monsters is much harder? And if they're plotting their, overthrow of humanity at the behest of these demons that were basically almost beat into submission back in the Dark Ages, way, in prehistory. So all these ideas were growing over the years, and I'm trying to write this movie idea or maybe a TV idea, and or what would it be? What would it be? And then I battled addiction and depression in a very serious way. Like, I came this close to losing my life to an addiction to heroin and opiates and alcohol and drugs. And I by the grace of God, or whoever you choose to call it, to me, a miracle. I couldn't describe it as anything other than that. I got my life back, and I had to do all this crazy stuff to go through the program and work all these things that were so contrary to my being, but it was the only way I could stay alive. And so all of a sudden this character took a new shape for me, and this idea and this story took a shape for me over the last 10, 15 years of wow, what if it's a battle just as much inside of the character as it is outside of the character? And so I started coming up with this concept, and I decided, instead of Jerry being a guy, I was like, I think it would be cooler because if it was a girl. I mean, we've seen Buffy, obviously. We've seen different iterations of Vampirella, who fights bad guys and fights good guys and does a lot of cool shit. But like, what if it was a different kind? What if it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't campy, but it was funny? What if it was, you know, what if she wasn't sexy per se? She was literally just jeans and a t-shirt, and like, you know, I really loved hack and slash. Like,
Yeah.
what if she was this like, what if she was this person that wanted to be a real legitimate news person, but she drank so bad, her boozing was so hardcore that like the only job she was left with was hosting the late night creature feature, and she's so humiliated and feels like her life has no purpose and no meaning, and all of a sudden discovers that the guy she replaced, who's vanished, the last horror host, was actually an appointed monster hunter. And so that's where the story starts, and that's how it kind of came to be. And I'm so lucky Dark Horse wanted to tell the story, because Peter Lankoff, who's my boss on MacGyver, the TV series, he created that and a bunch of other shows and movies and comic books. He loved this idea, so he introduced me to Mike Richardson at Dark Horse, and they said they wanted to really help me flesh it out in a way that felt like I could take a lot of, you know, if you read the comic, it's not very PC, and it's definitely not G-rated. So I think Dark Horse, I couldn't have had better home than Dark Horse, where they let me really swing for it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I love it. I thought the concept was great, especially with the horror host, because growing up and watching Svengoolie and Elvira and stuff like that, Joe Bob Briggs, I was like, man, this is really cool. It's such a unique spin, and I really dig it. Now, you have a trade paperback coming out. May 13th is the date. Has that been affected by the COVID craziness?
I'm telling people May 22nd. So there has been an effect on the COVID craziness, but it is available right now. It will be going in the next few weeks. So I'm shooting for like, you know, May, like the week after, whatever that following week is. But I believe I want to say like physical retailers May 13th. So just know, if you're watching this and you're interested in this, please send a message or call your local comic shop and let them know that, you know, you would like a copy of the Count Crowley Volume 1 trade paperback. If you don't have a comic shop near you, or if you don't, you know, think that your comic shop is doing business right now, you can just go to darkhorse.com, and they've got all the info there about the trade. Which the cool thing with the trade is that, obviously, as you know, working in the industry, that like, it's now going to be available a bunch of other places. Like, it'll be in comic shops and book retailers, Amazons, etc. But I would still love to encourage people as much as you possibly can to try and order it through your comic shop. And I would like to say, if you're watching right now and you're interested or you're curious about this comic, my wife is an amazing designer and artist. She's a muralist, and she took our artist, by the way, for Count Crowley is Lucas Kettner. If you guys ever read like Witch Doctor or Kill the Minotaur, he's one of the best artists in comics. I'm so lucky I got him. But his design of Jerry is like all my dreams come true for Jerry. And so my wife had these limited. She only got a small number of these made for me to give to my friends and my coworkers. But I have 50 of them. The first 50 people who get the trade and take a picture of themselves with it, or just the trade, and post it on Twitter or Instagram, and just use the hashtag Count Crowley. You just hashtag Count Crowley, or tag me or tag it in it. The first 50 that I count, I've got a bunch of little envelopes here, and I've got 50 of these that I've wiped down with Clorox bleach, and they're totally safe. And I will be sending them to you. We'll get in touch to get your address and all that once we figure out, you know, who the people are. But yeah, I'm going to put more rules online this week for that. But the first 50 people that get the trade and are going to get one of these.
Well, I should just say right now, it'll be the first. You have 49 of those left, because I'm getting one.
All right.
I'm getting the trade. Now the trade is the 4 books, right?
It's all 4. It's issued 1 through 4, plus some incredible bonus. There's so much art that Lucas has made just for the trade, or pieces that grew out of our, you know, development of the trade of the single issues. So there's a lot of bonus material in the trade that you don't get anywhere else.
Very cool. Now, Do you plan on continuing this series after the trade comes out, or is this just the 1 and 4?
You know, I was talking to Dark Horse right when because issue 4 came out in January. And fortunately, issues 1 through 4 were enough of a critical and commercial success, if you will, that the trade paperback was greenlit, and they really gave us an opportunity to throw it. Like, I wrote some stuff to add to it, and my editor we did some really cool stuff with it. So we're getting into this conversation because, you know, you guys, for me, we're just scratching the surface. I have like 50 years of comic book in me right now as far as Count Crowley goes. But in all seriousness, I have some really important stories that I need to tell about Jerry. And so we're getting into this conversation where I'm going like, all right, so what's going to happen? And then coronavirus starts to take off, and all of a sudden everything kind of is on a pause, if you will. So my hope is that if you're watching, if you go and you get the trade, because single issues for Count Crowley are gone. They're not doing second prints, and it's sold out. You know, the limited pressing they did. When I was getting ready for a con, I said I need like 100 numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then the warehouse was like, oh, we've got like a handful left. I was like, yes. So if you guys get the trade and the trade does well, I think that's, you know, supply and demand. Hopefully I will get to do more, but I also I don't want to. I'm so proud and I'm so excited when I look at 1 through 4 and I look at the trade at volume 1 and I go, if this was all I got to do, it'll break my heart in a billion pieces, but it'll also it's one of the proudest things I've ever accomplished as, like, I don't like calling myself an artist, but like as a storyteller, you know, as like somebody that loves telling stories. It's definitely it achieves all the things that I ever dreamed of being able to do as a storyteller.
Very cool, man. Well, we have only a handful of issues left at The Adventure Begins. So come pick them up at The Adventure Begins if you want the single issues, and I'm sure we're going to get the trades. Here's a question I think is really cool or interesting. What are your thoughts on how we can integrate comic books, cinema, music into storytelling, especially in how it relates to horror?
So I feel like one of the interesting things to me about horror, like I was telling you, you know, earlier, is it's this confrontation of our mortality. It's this confrontation of the things that scare us the most. And we do that through comedy too. We do it through drama, but horror has its own special particular thing and real visceral, in your face way of like literally splattering us with the blood, guts, and gore of, like, you know, life stuff that scares the crap out of all of us, right? So I feel like it's something that we all have in common, and I don't think everybody's gonna love horror. Wouldn't be what it is if everybody loved horror. Like, there are people that outright like just can't stand horror and they never want to see a horror movie. That's fine. That's their choice. I understand that. But for those who are willing to open their minds and take a look and go, okay, you know what, maybe Texas Chainsaw wasn't their thing, but did they give a chance to House on Haunted Hill? Or did they give a chance to one of these more contemporary, really exciting stabs at horror that's being done by the Jordan Peels or the Joe Hills or, you know, the Josh Mallermans of horror right now? And you go, you know, what's so cool, and it crosses all of the mediums, film, comic books, television, is it can transport us, takes us to another place, puts us in the feet or the shoes, to walk a mile in the shoes of our protagonist usually, and, you know, unless it's this particular special kind of like first person film, which those are fun too. But like, I just think that there's an opportunity, and we're also just with this new renaissance of like elevated and dramatic horror that's kind of really doing cool things in the world. There's an opportunity for us to share collectively that experience of going on this journey with the characters in the film, and and doing it together. And I love when that happens. One of the things that I miss about cons right now is like running into somebody and being like, oh my God, did you read X? Did you see X? Or when you're in a shop and it's Thursday and everybody's like, oh my God, did you get the latest? You know, everybody just read the night before. They all got to read their shit and they're like freaking out about whatever.
Yeah.
We're not alone. You know what I mean? Like, it's times like this that we're going through this coronavirus. It's very easy, especially if you're a single person, or if you don't live with somebody, or if you live with a roommate that maybe you don't talk to a lot, or like you're just isolated.
Mhm.
It's very easy to fall under this like illusion that we're alone. And I want to see more and more, like, while we're in quarantine, like, you know, Zoom or etc. Like Twitter. I did a viewing of Ant-Man the other night for comicbook.com, and we did like a quarantine watch party. Like, we could do that with my wife, by the way, has never seen Texas Chainsaw. So a group of friends and I, we're all going to do it. Yeah, I'll have to let you guys know the night that we're going to do it.
I'd love
and
to.
we could all be like tweeting and messaging.
That'd be cool.
But it sounds silly to say it, but you get it. I know you get it because I've talked to you, and I know your passion for music and your passion for horror and your passion for this world is like, it's not cheesy to say it's something that can actually like bring us together, you know?
Oh yeah, most definitely, man. Most definitely. Now you wanted to talk about ideas on keeping the brick and mortar shops open, because a lot of them are going through some tough times right now. Do you have ideas? Or
I think that the really important thing to do right now, I don't have a solution, obviously, but my thought on this is, it's hard as a creator to try and find incentives to keep people wanting to like go now, as opposed to, because I think a lot of people are saying to themselves too, like, I'll go in October, or I'll go in November, and then I'll catch up on all the Crowleys that I missed, or I'll get all of the, you know, the Immortal Hulks that I'm not getting right now, or whatever. And you go to yourself, like, I understand that logic, but at the same time, the store's not going to be there if you go, well, I can't go and I can't get anything. And I also, again, it's complex because I understand there's a lot of people who would normally be shopping who are going, I'm out of a job right now. So if you're watching and you're in that position, we get it. We understand. But if you're one of those lucky people that is able to be working from home, who still has income coming in, who still has money that they want to know where they should be putting it. Yeah, you're giving to this charitable organization. You should. Absolutely. That's important. You should be giving to your local restaurants and but brick and mortar comic shops are still the lifeblood of so much of the culture, American culture, that is meaningful. And when we look back, and when people in future generations look back at, you know, history in America, I think it will surprise a lot of people right now, although it doesn't surprise me or you probably, to realize how influential this world is on our culture and how important they are to our society and bringing us together. Next to movie theaters, they're one of the few places where groups gather and share ideas and talk about a common love for art. So my thought is, if you can find that place in your budget right now to continue your pull list. And again, if you don't know if you don't have a pull list, or if you're used to just going like every couple weeks or every other Wednesday or whatever, and like seeing what you can find, you know, try to stay involved in communities on Facebook, on, you know, Reddit, on the internet, and see, you know, what's happening with comics, who's publishing right now. Reach out to your comic shop, figure out how you can order through them. Direct from publishers is always great, of course, but if you can order it through your comic shop, you're not the only added expense is honestly like your local comic shop is having to figure out more ways to get them to you. But from all the people I've spoken with, they're doing their part. Like you said, you guys are doing curbside pickup. They're putting in the extra effort to make it safe for you as a consumer. And spread the word. I feel like there's a lot of people who find themselves for the first time in a long time sitting around, and at a certain point, Netflix is got like, you need a break from your screens, okay? You've got a lot of friends, if you're watching this right now, and a lot of family who haven't probably cracked open a comic book in years, if not ever.
Right.
This is an awesome opportunity for us to rekindle and remember the importance of, you know, these things called long boxes and these like bagging boards, and getting our hands on a tangible physical thing that you can hold and spend time with. And I'm reading a lot too, not just comic books. I'm reading books about Satan. I'm reading all kinds of stuff. But actually my reading list is kind of funny. I've got Fangoria, all these comics, reading a book about Hitler's fascination with monsters and the occult, a book on parenting right now. It's a good time to be doing all this research, but that, I know I just said a lot of stuff, but I feel like I hope that if you're listening or you're watching this, you guys get and keep coming up with ideas and ways that we can continue to support our local comic shops, because their rent is still due, you guys, and their catalog and their backlog and their inventory still needs to be organized. And they have employees who many of them have dedicated their lives to, this culture that we love so much. And a lot of America still doesn't get that. Like they take a lot of these movies and movie characters and TV shows for granted, and they don't. But it's an important time for us to support them if you can.
Most definitely, and I got a shout out to our customers, because we've overwhelmed. They came and they've supported in droves. So thanks to everybody who shops at The Adventure Begins. Real quick, I know we don't have too much time left with you, but in those long boxes, what are you reading comic book wise? Curious.
Let's take a look down. Here's an interesting thing. So for like what's happening right now in comic books, I do love, like, I'm a villain lover, so I've loved the Doctor Doom retells of what's happening with Doom. I've loved what's happening with Thanos. I've been reading the Joe Hills, like the Ice Cream Man, all that, all of his stuff always like really appeals to me. But what's been fun for me is going back. A bunch of my stuff just fell. There are so many. I think I've read them all, and there are so many that I never got a chance to read before. So like through my old hometown comic shop, I got this awesome issue of Creepy. The Creepies, Eries, if you need to or you want to read them and understand them, you can buy the really cool new volumes that Dark Horse and has done recently. Classic horror tales. I started finding some more of these that I hadn't been able to get my hands on before. Monsters Unleashed, which was a Marvel series in the 70s, is a really great series. I've been finding some new issues and ordering online, and there are a lot of comic shops that have these great back issues that they need to sell to keep staying in business. And you get a good, this, of course, if you want the certain, Frazetta cover or something, or you want this special thing in mint, I get it. If that's who you are out there and you're watching, I support you. And I think that's awesome that you can drop $300-400 on an issue of a thing. But if you're somebody who's watching and just like, oh man, I always love those old horror comics, you can get some of this stuff for great values.
Big time.
And I would love to see like Tomb of Dracula. I've always wanted to pitch Marvel. Now that I'm starting to like I've not made it. What's the word for it? Like I've actually like got a credit now as like a comic creator. Do you know what I mean? Like now I have a legitimate. Yeah, I got my foot in the door. Thank you. Now I got my foot in the door. I do want to go to Marvel. And I've been brainstorming and pitching how to pitch them the resurgence of Tomb of Dracula.
Dude, yes, all day long, man. That'd be great. Dude, you're the person to bring it back.
Well, see, man, I mean, I wanted to pitch the movie. I had a script idea for Werewolf by Night. I really used to spend a lot of time dreaming about getting a shot at Morbius. And then, of course, Sony has made that film, so that ship has sailed. But maybe I'll get a chance to do something with the comic book iteration of Morbius at some point, That'd
be great, man. I hope so, man, because you got all my monies, man. I'm totally reading it. And I know we're out of time with you. I have
Dude, you're awesome.
No, man, I appreciate you. I do have one fan question
yes.
I would like to ask. And
I have a fan?
You do.
That makes me happy. Hi, fan.
And it's from the R&R Nerd. See, that's me.
All right.
Well, my question was, can Kurt tell the fans to pick up their Count Crowley trade paperback at The Adventure Begins?
Yes.
Yeah? Sweet.
Hold on. I'm going to make a little bit of this.
Dude, this is awesome.
Do, 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 do. Hello, this thing is for work. Let's see. Scott, Luis, Dave. Who's this guy with the hair? Chase Grave. I don't know who is creepy guy on TV right now. Anyway, hello people in Texas and all over world. This is Kurt. Well, I read this what you call comedy book, comics books. It's about women who fight monsters. She don't take no shit. She kick ass. I like. So yeah, you must go buy for trade paperback, volume 1, issues 1 through 4. Count Crowley, Reluctant Midnight Monster Hunter. If you not buy, beware, because Baba Yaga will come in nighttime for you. Baba Yaga.
That was killer, my friend. I almost hesitated asking that question. Now, one thing we are asking as the very last question, all of our guests. David, you walk into a deli, you look at the menu, it's the Dastmalchain sandwich. What's in it?
Okay, it is. It's got corned beef, pastrami, and roast beef. It's not on a long bun though. I want it on like a hoagie poppy seed that's fresh, so it's a little crispy on the exterior, but it's squishy on the inside. And then on top of that, we slathered the really, really good. I don't want to like cheap out on this. This better be the good stuff, like the good mustard. And I don't mean like some expensive, like crazy crap you have to get in a Christmas box, but like the stuff that the real delis get, the good mustard. And I'm just that crazy guy. I don't care about it. Makes my gas. I want some sauerkraut like up on top. I just always love throwing that on my sandwiches with the really thinly sliced long pickle. And I gotta have like those really like thick cut fries next to that sandwich. But that's it. It's really simple. So whoever can make that for me, Postmates it to me. Thank you.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what, because on a future episode of The Adventure Begins, my co-host Jarek and I will be making these sandwiches that everybody's building up. So we will tag you in it. We'll share the picture. David, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Count Crowley is a dream come true for this man right here. So please support him. Come grab the books. Get the trade paperback. Don't forget to check out The Adventure Begins Facebook, Instagram, and website for all upcoming events. Quarantine Con is still in full swing. Get your tickets. It's totally for free. Our next episode is at 6:30 with Chastity Bro. David, you rock, man. This was truly horrific.
Thanks, man. That was really awesome. I really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for watching. And stay safe, you guys. Be well, be healthy, and stay as sane as possible.
All right. See you, nerds.
Do you guys have any D&D stuff? I hate busy days.
Kids, you need help with anything? Hey, kid. Hey, kids, you need help with anything? Kid. Yo. Hey, where are your parents? Shouldn't you be at school or something?
I got a PhD in kicking your butt. How's that for schooling? Now send me some smokes.
Hey Chaz,
Yeah?
did you just sell that kid some cigarettes?
No. I don't. Yeah? No, I don't know.
Hey Chaz,
Yeah?
we don't sell cigarettes.
Hey, Jarek.
Yeah?
We're closed.
Huh.
Amateurs.
We hope you guys enjoyed this week's Counterspace. We also do not condone selling cigarettes to minors.
That's right.
Don't smoke.
That's right, kids. Don't smoke. Don't smoke. Cigarettes are bad.
They're gross.